We built a caucus inside the organization that said we want to build a movement to defend and transform public schools, and rank and file people should be the lead of this. And so we, that summer and that fall, we began some training explicitly around anti-racist principles and practices, so that the crew of people that we were building as the core of the caucus could be a force that as we watched the rest of the folks around the state divide us by race, we knew that the union could be a force to unite people across race. And so we started finding folks, doing some trainings, and
that's how I got connected. So I got involved in the NCAA Organized 2020 caucus through the Dismantling Racism trainings. But it wasn't my first introduction to Organized 2020. So my first convention was the one in Raleigh where Reverend Robert spoke, but my second one was in Hickory, where we had the Constitutional Convention. And so there's been this buzz going around about Organized 2020 and all kinds of crazy things. I'm sure you've heard some of them, because they still exist. But Nicholas Graver Grace from Durham comes up to me and is like, hey, do you want to come to this Organized 2020 meeting? He was like, what have you heard about us? And I was like, oh, that y'all are trying to overthrow the union? I'm a newbie, I don't want to quite that. But I go to the meeting, and that's how I started getting involved in the work of the caucus. But really, it's work that I've been doing for a long time anyway, so our interests aligned. So I grew up in Lumberton, which is my mom's hometown. The first address I ever remembered was 210 Kinlaw Street, which is down the street from my grandmother's house where my mom grew up. And so after my grandmother passed, we moved to Fayetteville, where I've spent most of my life. And I decided early on that I either wanted to be like a famous singer or I wanted to be a teacher. It was either or. It was one of those. And so I went through school, always loved school, loved just the process of being in school, sitting in the classroom, learning books, all that good stuff. Spent lots of time. That's why I'm geeked out about this bookstore, because I love it so much. But I got to fifth grade. I got to fifth grade, and I had a teacher who changed the course of my life, and her name was Miss Washington. I grew up in a neighborhood where most of the families were like mine. My mom, my brother, that was it. A lot of families we lived in a housing complex that we lovingly referred to as Tiffany Court, but it was called Rose Hill Garden Apartments. It was a hood kind of housing development. And so when I was in my fifth grade class, my teacher was reprimanding me and my friends because we were talking. My mom always said I was very talkative, but I never believed that. But she also said to me, that's why y'all are those project kids. Y'all are never going to be anything. And they're this is my teacher, right? This is the person that's supposed to inspire me to do better, want more, be more. And she told me I was never going to be anything. And I just remember thinking to myself, I can't let anybody determine the course of my life and what I want to be and where I want to go. And so I was just more adamant than ever, right? To make sure I get a chance to represent the community that I'm from in a way that gives respect and honor to those who come from situations like mine, but also inspires people to do more. And so I kept on my dream. I've always felt that pressure of you could be so much more than a teacher, right? People question your decisions all the time. Well, you're so smart, you could be a doctor, you could be something like that. And I met Miss McNair, who is my mentor, from the greatest high school in the whole wide world, which is also the other historically black high school, E.D. Smith Senior High. And I wanted to be a teacher. She was my music teacher, and I was like, oh, I don't have to perform in front of large groups, and I can be a teacher? That's great. So I became a music teacher. I got to college by the grace of God and the North Carolina Teacher Fellow Scholarship. So I went to East Carolina University, and in the Black Student Union is where I cultivated a lot of the leadership skills that organizing against practices that were anti-racist in that predominantly white institution. Fighting for African American Cultural Center, fighting for African American Studies program. So I was able to do that. So organizing with this crew wasn't really that different. And so then when I became a teacher, I'm at the same school I started at, Morganton Road Elementary School. I've been there for 12 years. But I almost quit in my 4th year. So as you the first 3 years are really hard, but they weren't that hard for me because I was really good leadership at my school, but then our school transitioned to leadership. I got married, which was great. And then I got pregnant, which was not so great. Because it was really difficult. I was sick. Like I threw up every day. And then I had a principal who was a bully. She would come into my classroom and harass me. She put me on an action plan. And I cried every day I came home from work. And so there was one moment where, like, I almost quit. Like, I remember sitting on my bed thinking, like, I can't continue to do this. Like, my husband was sitting there next to me and I just cried and cried and cried. And I was willing to pay that $26,000 debt that, you know, if you don't finish your 4 years, you gotta pay back for teaching failures. I was willing to give that all up because I just couldn't do it anymore. And my mom called and she was like, no, she's like, you're gonna join NCAE. We're gonna get you some help. Because like most teachers, you probably walked by the NCAE table at new teacher orientation, you were like, I don't need that, that's fine. You know, as long as I do my job, I'm fine. But she paid for my membership that first week. And it was in that moment, I was like, I had a moment of choice. I could decide to quit or I could figure out a solution to the problem. So I sat down with my unit server at the time. We made a plan. Her name was Gloria Carter-Moore. She was awesome. And I realized that once I was empowered with knowledge, right? Once I knew the things I should do, what I shouldn't do, policies and procedures, things of that nature, like I just felt so like I could do so much more. And so I walked into my school building weeks after that, and I was realizing that other people in my building also needed the learning. And so we began to meet, and I began to share things and say, yeah, you need to join the union, the association, because you know that's that thing around union, right? But things don't have to be like this. And so we were able to do that and organize things around our principal. She ended up leaving, which was like a divine intervention. But we had changed the culture of our school. Like people felt like they could advocate for things that they needed. And so we did rallies around the state in 2013. I got to organize one in Fayetteville, and I was like, oh yeah, this is good, right? So then when I met them, I'm like, well, okay, well we're doing Decline to Sign, and then we started doing the, We Heart Public Schools campaign, and all of that stuff was really great. And also I got to test out some of the leadership skills that I had been building when I ran for region director the first time, and I was heartbroken. I was so sad. I remember being at a meeting with them and I cried, but then I realized, like, this is still my organization, this is still my union. Like, they still need the things that I have to offer, the things I have to bring. And so I just kept working, doing things that weren't even assigned to me, but that people needed, right? And so that's the thing that empowers me, that keeps me going, is that the union is not in the title. It's in the work that we do together. It's the shared learning that we do across locals and across members and different categories of an educator, but we're all important and impactful to students in the building. So like that's the thing that moves me forward. And so when we sit in these positions, we're doing so because we want to move the work forward. not to leave it where it is. And even though it is uncertain, we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. But we know that our union, this family, we have each other, so no matter what happens in the future, we know that it's going to be a proactive stance. But we always know that we're setting our goals and our mission to build new leaders, to organize around the state, to build those cross organization coalitions that know that we're gonna put our students and our families and our communities first. And so I love this thing right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.